I have been a lifetime music missionary with Operation Mobilization, based 15 years on our mission ships and for several decades here at OMUSA in the Atlanta area. So I was a music teacher for many years and was involved mostly in Western music. And I came across an opportunity to think more on ethnic worship. I was asked to be part of an event where we were having multicultural worship from 75 nations. And that introduced me to a whole new world. And I was at a global event where I was overseeing the music and the worship bands. There were literally 17 worship bands at this event. And I gave a little report of the growth of worship around the world. And the head of Wycliffe Bible translators stood up after my report and said, we have to talk further about what we just heard, because there's a new paradigm in missions that connects worship and missions together. And he said, I want to tell you about that in 2 quick sentences from Wycliffe. Sentence number 1, where the translators got the new Christians to sing the newly translated scriptures, churches grew rapidly. Sentence number 2, where that did not happen, churches grew slowly. And I had this mandate out of heaven. That's why I created you, Frank. Figure out how to be involved in that. So I decided that we needed to write some stories about how God was raising up worship and how it connected to discipleship. And so I contacted a Wycliffe music missionary at the time, Paul Neely, and Paul had just returned to the USA. And Paul had many contacts. And I said, Paul, start sending me some stories. And I described to him the kind of book we needed to put together. So then, when these stories got collected, we realized they needed a good bit of editing. So another Wycliffe friend of mine who I went to college with, Carol Brinneman, who was a staff editor and writer for Wycliffe, was willing to join us as a third author. And what she was able to do is to take all of these stories, and she used the term, I'm going to move the furniture around and make it more understandable, because a lot of these stories were from missionary newsletters, and some of them were from books that needed to be edited down. And so Carol did a marvelous job of getting these 50 stories ready for publication. One unbelievable, memorable moment, I collected a story from Campus Crusade for Christ, Crew. And it was a guy that followed the film team, the Jesus Film people. And he had watched the film about 100 times. And then in southern Sudan, the war broke out and the film team had to leave. But this guy knew the story from Luke, and he was able to write an epic song. And then he put some rhythm to it and went from village to village. And incredibly, he was able to see 65 churches planted, all from one story, one song. Most of us live in cultures where we are just connected to our own culture. It's more monocultural. What is unique about this book is that it takes us on a journey literally around the world, every continent represented in the stories. And if we needed a way to broaden our appreciation and understanding of the marvelous thing that God is doing, building His kingdom by raising up worship around the world, here is a resource, a Reader's Digest of stories that will open up the whole world And that's why the title, All the World is Singing, was chosen to represent the concept of the book.